Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. As you guys know, Skip Bayless pretty much made some big news yesterday, where he came out there and basically confirmed all of the rumors and all of that by saying that he's officially done with Undisputed. We want to read his tweet that he published 21 hours ago. He said, "Today was my last show on Undisputed. I'm leaving FS1. I've been planning to pursue other opportunities for several months. I had a great 8-year run with a lot of great people at Fox, but now I'm excited for what's coming up. Stay tuned." And then he put out a subsequent tweet where he said, "Ernestine and Hazel surprised me with a quote unquote congratulations balloons when I returned from my last Undisputed. Can't wait for what's next. Here we go." So that's what Skip Bayless said, right? Skip Bayless said that he's no longer going to be on Undisputed. And with that, it has created a void, right? It has created a void. If you guys remember, going back 8 years ago when he joined Undisputed, he was the face of the network of FS1. He was the face of the network. He had the flagship show with himself and Shannon Sharpe, and he was going to be going head to head with his former show that he used to be on ESPN, First Take at ESPN. And for a number of years, they held their own. Were they ever really a threat to ESPN First Take? No, right? Because it's the bigger platform, but nevertheless, FS1 was still, Undisputed, with Skip and Shannon's Undisputed was it was a competitive show, right? But then what happened? A year ago, Shannon Sharpe leaves the show, and then we witnessed an incredible decline in ratings, and then it just kept on getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and then ultimately we got the news that Skip Bayless is no longer going to be working at the network. So then many of us began to speculate, who's going to be Skip Bayless's replacement? Who's going to be the person to replace him? And I've said, nobody's going to listen to me, obviously. I said one of the people that I think they should go out there and get is Max Kellerman, right? Max Kellerman, I think, would do an excellent job in that role. So then what happened? Yesterday, Mitch sent us into the group chat, he sent us an article from Front Office Sports that was basically talking about a potential replacement for Skip Bayless. And they actually named the name, but then they also reveal who they are planning, in this case FS1, to make the face of the network, which I think will surprise a lot of you. So the article starts off with the headline: "Sources, with Skip Bayless gone, FS1 could blow up studio lineup." It then continues on: "Skip Bayless' departure from FS1 could be the impetus for the network to blow up most of his weekday studio show lineup," sources tell Front Office Sports. With Bayless tweeting that Friday's show was the last after 8 years at FS1, the spotlight now turns to the rest of the network's on-air talent and studio shows. "I'm hearing FS1 could completely revamp its current lineup, canceling Bayless's Undisputed, moving talent around to different or new shows, and possibly building a new program around Chicago-based sports radio personality Danny Parkins. According to my sources, FS1's executives believe First Things First star Nick Wright is the future of the network, but they do really want to take the 39-year-old Nick Wright and on-air partners Chris Broussard and Kevin Wiles away from their current 3 to 5 p.m. spot, Eastern time slot, and make them the complete head-to-head with rivals ESPN's powerhouse First Take. Bayless, the godfather of sports debate, was chewed up by his former on-air partners Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharpe from 10 a.m. to noon in their head-to-head battle. If I'm right, I'm not sticking my ascending program in front of that buzzsaw. It's probably more likely," says my source, that FS1 takes the promising duo of Emmanuel Acho and Joy Taylor from Speak to 5 p.m. and builds a new morning show around them. They also like Keyshawn Johnson and Richard Sherman, two of Bayless's rotating partners on Undisputed, and could cast them on other shows. Meanwhile, FS1 is intrigued by Parkins, the 37-year-old Chicago radio talk show host who recently guest host The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He's good friends with Wright. Going back to their days at Syracuse, Cowherd publicly called Parkins the most talented sports radio talk host out there right now on his podcast. There's no doubt about one thing. FS1's management is under pressure. It already looks foolish for letting Shannon Sharpe walk last year in favor of Bayless, just as the Pro Football Hall of Famer was ascending in popularity and Bayless was fading. Now Sharpe's one of the hottest sports media personalities in the country, making an impact on ESPN and with Club Shay Shay's podcast/YouTube show. Sharpe's also poised to inherit the lead role on ESPN First Take if Smith leaves for late night TV, politics, or acting. This means Sharpe will likely be a thorn in his old network side for years to come. FS1 needs to do something this summer to improve its weekly studio lineup in time for the 2024 NFL season. Studio shows are designed to help drive viewers to live game coverage, with Tom Brady joining as Fox #1 NFL game analyst, and the network's poised to broadcast Super Bowl. The sports cable network needs a healthy studio lineup. One of the many puzzling things about Bayless's tenure was how FS1 let him talk nonstop about the NBA when Fox doesn't have any NBA rights. So you heard what the article had to say there. What are my thoughts on this? Based on everything I just read, it looks like I'm not going to like pretty much any of the decisions that they're going to make. It looks like I'm just not going to like any of the decisions that they're going to make. I think the best show that they currently have going, in my personal view, is First Things First. I think that's their best show. I think that's their best lineup with Nick Wright, Chris Broussard, and Kevin Wiles. I think they all play off of each other perfectly. They have great chemistry together. I love some of the things that they do throughout the show to keep it engaging, keep viewers and continue to retain viewers' attention. I think that's their best show. So moving that to the morning slot, I think they could do well, right? I think they can do well. So that's the one move I like. That's the one move. Now, regarding Danny Parkins, I don't know who that person is. I Googled him yesterday. I have seen him before, but listen to some of the things with Keyshawn and all of that, it doesn't really excite me, to be quite honest with you. I think whatever move they're planning on making, I don't think is going to make a real impact on ESPN. I think whatever they tried to do, it's not going to work, because ESPN they just have better personalities. They have better shows. Like, just name them. Get Up, First Take, Around the Horn, all of the, NBA Countdown. They have the best shows. In terms of personalities, they know how to build out their personalities better. It's just a fact, right? And then they now added, as the article alluded to, Shannon Sharpe to the lineup. I said that was the single stupidest mistake by letting Shannon Sharpe walk. I think the thing they should have done is maybe put him on a different show. You don't let talent like that walk out of the door. You just don't let that happen. You don't let it happen. And Shannon Sharpe has been a boon for ESPN. A boon. A boon. Imagine if FS1 still had him. So that's their mistake. But based off of what I'm reading and what I'm hearing, none of this really excites me. Right? None of those, apart from, in my personal view, apart from First Things First, that's the only thing that sounds interesting or exciting to me. I would also consider trying to bring Rob Parker back on TV. I think he does a good job. I said they should try to bring Max Kellerman. I think he does a good job. Right? Bring people that people are excited and want to hear about. Right? This is just my view, but I could be wrong. I've never ran a network, don't have any intentions of running a network. I'm sure these guys know a lot more than I do. I'm just speaking from the standpoint as a viewer, and based off of what I'm hearing and what I've seen, none of this is really going to move the needle for me. This is just my opinion. Maybe they need to read some of the YouTube comments and really go out there and listen to what viewers are saying and what people are really saying, and instead not spend so much time just looking on Nielsen ratings and all of that. Maybe actually listen to what people actually think, because those ratings don't really capture sentiment. That's why YouTube is the best. YouTube, apart from the them paying as much as television does, but YouTube gives you more information. They give you more feedback. They give you the views. They give you the likes. And most importantly, they give you the comments. And of course, the time and all of that. So you get a better sense of what people actually think about your show. Your show could be getting views, but you don't really know what people think. People could be watching it begrudgingly because there's probably nothing else better to watch. So number one is the United States presidential election, right? Which has really been like a soap opera, right? It's been like an absolute soap opera, and we're going to start discussing politics in the next few weeks on a different channel that we're going to launch. We'll give you guys the update, and for those of you who are maybe interested to hear me talk about those kind of things, you can obviously subscribe to that channel whenever we decide to launch later this month, or I think in the beginning of September. We'll keep you guys abreast with that information there. So the presidential election has been like a soap opera, a total soap opera with the things that have been happening with this. The first debate, Biden goes out there, he wets the bed. He basically, Donald Trump just had a cakewalk because the guy next to him could barely even speak, right? And then at one point, Trump said he looked, and I think the moment of the night was when Trump looked over and said, I don't even think he knows what he's saying. I was like, okay, right. And then the Democrats pressured him then he finally stepped down and come on. So we have that, right? We'll talk about that later. So you have that. And then we have the Olympics, the Paris 2024 Olympics, right? Which is something else that's underway. And in the Olympics is always a special moment in time. You have the greatest athletes in their particular disciplines going out there to compete against one another on a global stage to see who can win the gold, silver, a bronze medal. And incidentally, I think USA is leading in total medal count. I think USA has the most bronze medals, which I don't know what that's about. No. I think it's the most bronze or the most silver. I think China is leading right now with the most gold medals. Last time I saw Bleacher, I think Bleacher Report put out a report earlier this morning, a picture earlier this morning when I saw it. Anyway, right? And then you have some, so you have these Olympians going out there to compete. And then you have Simone Biles, who's arguably the greatest gymnast of all time. So, as you guys know, because I want to tie this in, Biden stepped down from the ticket, right? Because they thought he was going to lose. All the polls were showing he was going to lose. And the person who replaced him as a Democratic nominee, and I believe she's already received the requisite amount of votes to be able to be the Democratic nominee, is Kamala Harris, the vice president. Right? So she steps up, and it created a lot of excitement. I think she raised, $40 million the first day or $80 million over the weekend or whatever it is when they made the announcement, whatever the case is. Because I think they announced it on a Friday. So there's all of that excitement. And then the Trump campaign now had to kind of reorganize themselves and come up with a new strategy because now they're going to be facing a different opponent. And I think throughout them trying to re-strategize, this term kept on getting thrown around. The DEI, diversity, was it DI or DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, or something like that. And basically, I think they were trying to say that Kamala Harris only got to the point where she is because it's a diversity move, right? Diversity move. So Simone Biles goes out there, and I think she wins the gold. And then she takes to Twitter to send a message to her haters, but also presidential candidate Donald Trump. And then subsequently after that, LeBron James now jumps on to basically support her and then also take a shot at Donald Trump. So that's what we want to get into. We actually have, we're going to show you the tweet, and we want to get into a Fadeaway World article. So let's get into that right now. The headline: LeBron James responds after Simone Biles takes a shot at former president Donald Trump. Even in the 2024 Olympic Games, LeBron James did not shy away from any opportunity to support his fellow black athletes. In the case of James and Olympics gymnast Simone Biles, the Lakers star couldn't help but stand in her defense after she seemingly mocked Donald Trump on X. Now we want to show you her tweet. And she wrote, "I love my black job." And then in response to that, LeBron wrote, "Black, GOAT, black heart emoji," right? Right. Then the article then continues on. Biles just made history as the oldest all-around gymnast champion since 1952. She reminded everyone of her status as the GOAT by hitting an extremely complex vault named I'm not even going to bother saying it, double pike on Thursday. Not long after her stunning performance, Biles took to X, where she made sure to mention how she loved her black job. While she didn't name Trump by name, there's no question alluding to him with her tweet in a rather negative light. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, was a highly controversial figure in office and remains a polarizing force across America. So that was what was said there, and I just want to let me see if there are any comments. What some people said. One person said, LeBron is race baiting. He kneels for the anthem and is a puppet for the CCP. Bigoted clown. Another person said, why emphasize black? Why not American? Another person said, vote for Kamala Harris this fall. Another person said, love her. And then a few other people stepped in there and said one or two things about this. What are my thoughts on this? Well, look, as you guys know, I've shied away from politics for a number of years. It's not that because I don't understand politics or I didn't follow politics for years. I did, right? I did. I follow politics just as much as the next person. Obviously, I'm not a political scientist, but you get what I mean. So I understand how it works to a certain degree, right? To a certain degree. The reason I decided not to delve into it is because, if I'm being frank with you, the things that people do in politics really, really annoy me. And the reason it annoys me is because I can see through a lot of the games that they play. And it annoys me. So over the last few months, I just got to the point where I said, okay, you know what? I just can't sit here and just be annoyed to myself. I can't be sitting up here complaining to my wife about it every single day, or I'm gonna sit my 7-month-old daughter and sit her down and be like, hey, you know what's pissing me off is you're gonna be looking at me like, what's wrong with this guy, right? So I'm kidding, obviously. So I said, okay, let's figure out a way for us to talk about this. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, about the way I see it. First of all, what do I think about what's happening in the race right now? I think that there are a lot of games that are being played between both candidates. First of all, I'm waiting for the substance. On the part of the Trump campaign, I'm waiting for the stuff. Talking about whether or not she's black or she's blue or she's Indian or she's green or she's this one or she's that one, I think is an irrelevant issue. Why do I think it's an irrelevant issue? Because it doesn't contribute to anyone's bottom line. Who cares if she was white, black, blue, green? I don't really care. Personally, I don't care. I'm not viewing these candidates. I think the moment was when Obama made it. But now, given the way the world is in the state of the United States right now in terms of the things that are happening, I don't care about that. Some people do. That's your prerogative, right? I'm waiting for the substance. If she's this, if she's that. And on the other side, they're weird. This is weird. That's weird. He's weird. What he said is weird. I get all of that. But folks, can we get to some substantive issues? Can we discuss policies? I could care less. Let's talk about the racial aspect of it. What I have noticed, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, we were talking about this just the other day during the meeting we were having about the other channel. And I said to myself, I said, look, and I was talking to the group, the Marco and Mitch and all of them. I was just saying, look, you know, the more and more I think about the issues, I begin to view myself as a centrist, right? Do I know who I'm going to vote for this moment? No. Now, some people say you should know who you want to vote for. You don't. That's your bloody prerogative. If you know who you want to vote for, fantastic. No need to go run around telling people who they need to vote for. What you need to be concerned with, instead of telling people who they need to vote for, is making sure you have all the information, the requisite information, to ensure that you're making an informed decision whenever you do vote. I think people need to spend more time focusing on that and less time trying to tell people who they need to vote for. Focus on who you need to vote for. To me, the way I see this thing is the following. There are certain views that I fundamentally agree with that are conservative. Fundamentally agree with. And then there's certain views that are fundamentally, that are liberal views that I 100% agree with. What I will not agree with is, if you are conservative, you need to agree with every single thing a conservative candidate or a Republican candidate is saying. If you are a Democrat, you need to agree with every single thing a Democratic, that's nonsense. Because then you're turning yourself into a robot. As far as the race issue regarding Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Simone Biles, LeBron, they're all playing games. They're all playing games. Now, Simone Biles may be saying, okay, I was offended by that, so I'm sending a message to the president. But what I have realized is that this thing of race baiting, everybody does it. The Democrats do it, the Republicans do it. How do you know? The Republicans, to give you an example, the Republicans are spending all this time talking about Kamala Harris is Indian and so what is that not race baiting? Are we not sitting here wasting time talking about a particular candidate's race? What does that have to do with the policies? And on the other aspect of it, you have the Democrat. Oh, they're trying to say this is a diversity hire and all of it. So they're making this entire conversation about race and all of it. Then you have celebrities that are jumping in, vote for this person, vote for that person. And some of us are sitting here who are still undecided, waiting to make a decision and say, okay, I understand that you guys Love to play these games. Can we please get to some substantive issues, please? Can we discuss policy for a second? That's why I'm happy that Trump finally agreed to have the debate with Kamala, so they can sit up there and let them talk about policies. What are you going to do? What are your plans for the future? What are your plans on this? What are your plans for the economy? What are your views on foreign policy? How do you plan on handling this issue? How do you plan on handling that issue? That's what I want to hear about. All of this other stuff to me is just a bunch of nonsense. That's just how I personally view it. We produced a show on our channel that was centered on some comments that the director from The Last Dance had made recently that was basically based on the NBA banning certain footage out of The Last Dance docuseries. The docuseries that dropped in 2020. They thought it was some distasteful comments that Scottie Pippen had made about former general manager Jerry Krause of the Chicago Bulls. If you guys didn't see that show, you should check it out. We just produced it just yesterday. So Scottie Pippen has been on our radar. Every once in a while, he comes on our radar. So this morning, I was just searching. I'm like, let me see what's popping. Let me see what's happening with Scottie Pippen. And then I came across a video, right? And it was a video of him just a few months ago going on the Today Show. I believe it's an Australian show. And I think this was during the tour, No Bull Tour or something like that, around that time, where some former Chicago Bulls were basically going to come out and, you know, tell it like it is and take us behind the scenes, because The Last Dance apparently did not do that, right? So during this interview that was conducted just a few months ago, they're talking about the Last Dance and all of that. And then I believe one of the hosts basically asked Scottie Pippen, so he's like, so Scottie, now that we're talking about it, in your mind, who is the greatest player of all time, right? And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, because I'm like, I know Scottie has said some pretty wacky stuff. So I'm like, I wonder what he's going to say now. So for those of you who didn't hear what Scottie Pippen had to say in terms of who he believes is the greatest player of all time just a few months ago, we want to play that for you now, and then we're going to come back and react to Scottie Pippen's comments. Take a listen to Scottie Pippen here.
Do you know, I lived and breathed the Chicago Bulls in real time, right? And then The Last Dance brought it all back. What was it like for you to watch that incredible documentary series?
I thought it was special. I thought it was a special moment for us to really relive some of the greatest time in basketball history, and more so have an opportunity to see what team basketball was like. And I think during the pandemic, everyone sitting home, it was more like an educational tool to let people see how great the game can be if it's played the right way, and if there's sharing of the basketball. There's unlimited things that you can achieve in a game of basketball, and we were able to win 6 titles over a decade, and that's a pretty high accomplishment.
People hate comparisons, and especially over different eras, but from where you were standing and playing, was Michael the best or the greatest ever?
For sure. I mean, you look at the MVPs that he was able to achieve, but I think it was all brought from us being successful as a team. Obviously, someone is going to bring those accolades home, but yeah, he was the greatest player, definitely in basketball.
I started getting so upset.
So you heard what Scottie Pippen said, right? Scottie Pippen said that Michael Jordan is the greatest, right? Now, some of you may be watching this and say, well, I would agree with him, but there's a problem. There's a problem. Because Scottie has been flip-flopping on this issue for years now, right? There have been a bunch of people he's believed to be the GOAT. As a matter of fact, there was a sit-down that he had, I believe it was 2 years ago, on ABC 7 Chicago. And I believe he was talking to Michael Strahan, and I think at that point, I think he had a book that was coming out or something like that. So they're talking about his career and all of those different things. And then he gets to the very end and he goes, Scottie, I got to ask you, who's the greatest player of all time? You guys won't even believe who Scottie Pippen said the greatest player was 2 years ago. Take a listen to Scottie Pippen telling you who's the greatest player of all time 2 years ago. Take a listen to that.
1994, there was an issue during a game where Phil Jackson wanted you to inbound the ball instead of take the last shot. And he deferred the last shot to Tony Kukoc. For years, you said Phil Jackson is a racist.
I felt like that I had earned my right to take that last shot. I felt like he disrespected me at that moment.
Looking back on it after all these years, you don't feel that way about it.
When you're a player and you're in the heat of the moment, those things go through your mind. But now that it's over, I've had a lot more great times with Phil than I did bad times. And that's why I say that.
Pippen's career in the NBA would last 17 seasons, and he'd be named one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. He retired in 2004. A year later, the Bulls retired his jersey.
That was a special moment for me. It just, shows the hard work that I had put in and, the belief that I had in myself.
And it's amazing how fast it goes, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's,
like that.
Yeah.
So you heard Scottie Pippen. In that soundbite, ladies and gentlemen, Scottie Pippen said with a straight face that, well, not a straight face, he was smirking actually. He said that I'm the greatest player of all time. What are we supposed to be saying about this right now? What are we supposed to think about this? A few months ago, Scottie Pippen is saying that Michael Jordan is the greatest. Then, 2 years ago, he goes out there and says he's the greatest. But then it doesn't stop there. It didn't stop there. Scottie, for whatever reason, and I don't know why he's doing this or he's been doing this, Scottie has been flip-flopping on this issue for years now. He just finished saying that the guy is the greatest. But 3 years ago, this is basically after The Last Dance dropped, Scottie Pippen went on a smear campaign against Michael Jordan in ways that I think shocked many of us sports fans. And his initial salvo was when he went on the Dan Patrick show 3 years ago. He went on the Dan Patrick show. The Last Dance, I think, had just come out, or people were still talking about it after it had been out for a few months or something like that. And Scottie came on that show. He seemed pretty annoyed. He seemed pretty upset at some of the questions, like he was begrudgingly answering some of the questions Dan Patrick was giving him. And then out of nowhere, he goes into this tirade of how Phil Jackson is a racist and, Michael Jordan was basically controlling the cameras and all of these different things. Now, some of you be like, man, 3 years is a very long time. I don't remember what he said. For those of you who don't remember what Scottie Pippen said 3 years ago, take a listen to him here talking about Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson, who he deemed to be racist. Take a listen to that.
Help me understand the GQ article where you talked about the 1994 playoff game when you refused to go back in the game and Phil set up the play for Tony Kukoc.
Well, I mean, it's not much to be said. If you go back and look at when Scottie Pippen entered the Bulls and when Tony Kukoc entered the Bulls and who deserved the last shot of the game.
No. I understand that, Scottie. I'm just going by what you said. You said you need to read between the fine lines. And then you go on to say it was a racial move to give him, Tony Kukoc, a rise.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, if you knew that Scottie Pippen had been with the Bulls from 87, battled through the Pistons and every other team that we had to get to those 3 championships, wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like 1 year without Michael Jordan. Can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
But all of that I understand from the basketball standpoint. But when you say a racial move...
Well, why would Tony, who was a rookie, get the last-second shot and you put me out of bounds? That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then
was on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would you put him in a position not to be successful? Why wouldn't you put him in a position to succeed? Michael Jordan is not there. So who's next in line for you?
But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
Do you think Phil was or is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you remember Phil Jackson left the Lakers, wrote a book on Kobe Bryant, and then came back and coached him? I mean, who would do that? You name someone in professional sports that would do that, you know? I think he tried to expose Kobe in a way that he shouldn't have. You're the head coach, and you're the guy that sits in the locker room and tells the players, this is a circle, and everything stays within the circle because that's what team is about. But you as the head coach, open it up, and now you go out and you try to belittle, at that time, probably one of the greatest players in the game.
Well, it feels like he's disloyal. I don't know if that makes him a racist.
Well, that's your way of putting it out, and I have my way. I was in the locker room with him. I was in practices with him. You're looking for him afar.
Yeah, and look, that's why I wanted to have you on. But I go back, and Phil designed a play for Steve Kerr when Mike was there. And Mike didn't have a problem with that, did he?
I don't want to. You're not setting me up to answer the right question. What do you mean Phil set up a play for Steve Kerr? He didn't set that play for Steve Kerr. He set that play for Michael Jordan.
I thought in the huddle, Mike says, "I'm going to throw you the ball. You'll be open at the foul line." And Phil had nothing to do with that.
And you don't want to get this show started because it'll take us a long time. Do you know all those cameras that's sitting in that huddle? Who they was working for?
The NBA.
So you know who Michael was speaking to when he said that, right? that was planned. That was speaking to the camera. That wasn't speaking out of what we're going to have to do, what the play is going to be. That was speaking to the camera. Had John Stockton not came down, trust me. But that was building his own documentary because he knew he was controlling the cameras.
You heard what he had to say. But if you listen to him in the Michael Strahan interview, he said that time has gone on. Time has gone on, and me and Phil have had some great times together. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, you said this a few months ago. What new great times have you been having with Phil Jackson that all of a sudden made you change your position on whether or not you thought he was a racist person? And the funniest thing was, Scottie Pippen is the only person I have ever heard say that Phil Jackson is racist. Phil Jackson has coached players like Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Pau Gasol, all of these guys, Ron Artest, all of them, Shaq, and I never heard any of them at any point say that Phil Jackson is a racist. But he believes that he's a racist for electing to put Tony Kukoc ahead of him in a game that he basically staged a mutiny, right? He staged a mutiny, but it doesn't stop there because the kicker just comes in right now. Why? In these series of audios we played for you, you've heard Scottie Pippen refer to Michael Jordan as the greatest. You've heard him refer to himself as the greatest. But 6 years ago, he went on ESPN First Take. This was when Max Kellerman was there. And he dropped a bombshell where he went on that show and basically said that LeBron James had surpassed Michael Jordan already, causing Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman to just basically lose their damn minds on TV. For those of you who don't remember Scottie Pippen, yes, on TV saying 6 years ago that LeBron James had already surpassed Michael Jordan. I'm going to play that for you now and give you guys our closing thoughts. Take a listen to this here.
Scottie Pippen, you would know better than anyone. How close is LeBron to catching Jordan?
The numbers don't lie. He's right there. He probably will never catch him in terms of MVP.
Okay.
But in terms of statistics, LeBron is right there. And when you look across the board, not just scoring, check his assists, check his rebounds, he's probably ahead of Jordan.
Oh, my God!
What?
I just want to throw this water on you. Let me tell you, Scottie Pippen.
You went there.
Hurry
up, 'cause I got to get in here on that one.
Blasphemy that just
God.
came out
Max
of your mouth.
wants to get in this.
6 NBA
Max, are you
finals,
listening to
6
this?
NBA finals, 6 NBA finals MVPs, undefeated, never even allowed the Game 7 to take place. You're going to go to, and by the way, speaking about numbers, you lucky I don't have more time with you. You lucky.
You are.
I'm looking at a dude that averaged just 16 points per game for his career on 47% shooting. Who would that be? You.
Yes.
And by the way, you're one of the greatest ever. It ain't just about numbers, and you know it. And last question. Can you tell me, other than scoring points and obviously shooting more, what does LeBron James do any different than what you did?
All right, look.
Go ahead, Max.
Scotty, I'll make
Max.
this real
I'm
easy.
listening to
Stephen
you.
A., we heard from you. I want to make this real easy. All the advanced metrics say Jordan's peak better than LeBron's peak. His career average better than LeBron's career
answer
average.
you, Stephen
All
A.
that stuff.
Let's
now
hear
check
Max.
this out, Scotty. Now check this out, Scotty. He didn't play with an all-star his whole career, so he didn't win it. He didn't get past the Pistons. The first time he played with an all-star, his name was Scottie Pippen. You took the Pistons 7 games. You couldn't play in Game 7, so they beat you. The next year, you hit your prime. All the stats say you hit your prime. And Michael Jordan, never again in a full season on the Bulls, didn't win the championship in under 7 games. As soon as he got a crew, no one gave him any cops, Scotty, and you were the crew originally. LeBron's not messing with no MJ.
So you heard him there. There he was saying that LeBron James was the greatest. Right? 6 years later, he's saying Michael Jordan is the greatest. And in all of that, Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball in the last 20 years. So go figure. Maybe something new happened. I don't know. I don't know what's next. Maybe next time if they ask him the question, he's going to say Marvin the Martian is the greatest player of all. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Look, this Scottie Pippen thing is something that has disappointed a lot of sports fans. I think before producing the show, I read a comment from one of our viewers who wrote, Scottie Pippen used to be one of my favorite, or was my favorite Chicago Bull of all time. He is no longer. I think there's a lot of that sentiment that is kind of percolating out there, where I think Scottie disappointed a lot of his fans and Chicago Bull fans and sports fans, to be honest with you, basketball fans, because the 90s is viewed as the golden era in the NBA. And a lot of people hold that Chicago Bulls dynasty near to their heart, right? It's like, it's the golden era of basketball. You have Michael Jordan, you have the shoes, you have the Bulls, you have all of that. And a lot of people would say that was probably the greatest dynasty in NBA history. You can make an argument. And to see how it has fallen apart over the last, 20 years, ever since the release of the Last Dance docuseries, I think has been disheartening to a lot of fans. If you look at the way Scottie and Michael Jordan were always in public together, you would think that they were great friends. So to see Scottie come out and go on the offensive on the Dan Patrick show was something that blindsided a lot of fans. And then to see some of the things he's been saying after that, I think it has turned off a lot of his supporters and Chicago Bulls fans. I mean, at one point he was saying Michael Jordan was a horrible basketball player. Like that's crazy talk. It's crazy talk to say that Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan is really the main reason we're still talking about Scottie Pippen today. And then to turn around a few months later and then go and then say, well, he's the greatest player of all time. People are now sitting back and wondering, what is going on with Scottie Pippen? Like, what is really going on with Scottie Pippen? Right? I don't know what to say. And then, of course, we have the part of Michael Jordan's son and all of that, which just made the thing even messier. Right? Which just made it even messier. But after listening to this, I can only sit back and wonder, like, where did all of this go wrong? Right? Where did all of this go wrong? Because a lot of people have been saying that Scottie's been walking around with a lot of bitterness. He's holding on to a lot of jealousy. And the irony in all of this is you don't get any of that from MJ. I think MJ was genuinely hurt by the things that Scottie Pippen said, and Stephen A. Smith said as much. But if you look at Michael Jordan, he's living his life. He's living his life. He's with his wife. They're traveling all over the world. Every time I see them, they're partying in Italy on his yacht. He's in Monaco. He's going there. He's going there. He's living his life. He's enjoying his life. Right? I think Jordan's 60 or something like that. He's enjoying his life. Right? And then to be at that age, kind of living with that amount of bitterness, it's really sad to see. it's really sad to see, especially when you look back and look at the success that these guys were able to achieve together. It's really, really sad to see that at the end, this is really what it all amounted to.